Hey, Kenji here. I'm at home and I'm about to make some scrambled eggs. These are going to be kind of like absurdly creamy scrambled eggs. What we're going to do is we're going to start with a couple eggs here. These are ones that are like almost, runny. Super, super creamy. A little bit of salt. Salt actually is a good thing to put on before you start cooking. It'll break down some of the proteins in the eggs, which in turn makes it so that they don't set up quite as tightly as you cook, so they don't squeeze out as much moisture. Your eggs, as they cook, the proteins coagulate and they interlink, and as they get tighter and tighter, as they heat up, they squeeze out moisture. If you salt them first and let them rest a little bit before you start cooking them, they don't squeeze quite as tightly, so they end up a little bit moister than they would. All right, nice and fully scrambled, right? Next I got a pan. It's going over low heat. Doesn't have to be super low. Oh, and I also got some toast ready here. Let's get this guy buttered up. I use this Kerrygold soft Irish butter, so it's churned in a way that makes it so that it's kind of spreadable straight out of the fridge, which I like, because I actually don't go through enough salted butter at home to justify having one of those sort of those butter bells with the water seal on them. My butter always ends up turning to cheese when I put it in there because I don't use it fast enough. All right, and so now we're gonna get some butter for the pan. We're gonna use a clean knife for that. Don't want to get crumbs in my pan. A good amount of butter, so a couple teaspoons per egg, maybe 3/4 of a tablespoon. So that's about a tablespoon and a half for 2 eggs. And let it melt gently. You don't want too much bubbling. You definitely don't want any browning. So now that I got that going, I'm gonna get my spatula. Now, when you're doing these, you can you can use a spatula if you go over super low heat, or if you want to go slightly higher heat, you can use a fork. This is a non-stick skillet, but I'm actually not letting the fork touch the bottom of the pan. I'm kind of letting it float over the bottom of the pan. That way you don't scratch the coating. It takes a little bit of practice to do this, but it does let you get your eggs a little bit faster. So constant motion with both hands, your left hand and your right hand. The more motion you have, the finer the curds you're going to form in these eggs. And if you don't want to use a fork like that, you can use a spatula. Just, constantly move it around, keep it moving, both hands, constantly be breaking up those curds. What else? The other thing you could use is a silicone-coated whisk, which I have here, but I'm not going to use it today just because you probably don't have it at home. You can also do this, it doesn't have to be in a saute pan like this, in a skillet like this. You could do it in a saucepan, like a small saucepan, or something with curved sides would be really great. If you got a copper pan, especially, that's good. I got a little copper saucier that I would use, but again, I'm trying to show you how you would probably do it with stuff you have at home. Now, you've probably seen like video on doing eggs like this, where he adds some crème fraîche at the end, or you might have seen Andrew Ray, Binging with Babish, his video on this, where he does it with goat cheese. I don't usually have goat cheese or crème fraîche around the house, so what I use, if I want eggs of this style, I'm gonna leave it off the heat for a second. I'm just gonna use some plain old yogurt. I'm gonna throw some of these chives in there right now. You don't have to use chives. You can use parsley, you can use tarragon, chervil. You don't have to use anything, in fact. You can just use plain old eggs, and that's just tasty. All right, so we're starting to get there. You can see how these eggs are super, super kind of luscious, creamy, custardy, very, very fine curds. And as with all eggs, if they're done in the pan, then they're gonna be overdone by the time they hit the plate. The good thing about this type of egg, though, is that once they're basically done, once they're at the texture that you want them, which I'm just about approaching here, you hit them with that, the dairy. So it could be, if you got crème fraîche or goat cheese lying around, sure, but you can hit them with this yogurt, and that cools them down enough that they essentially stop cooking right there. And so you don't have to worry too much about this kind of egg overcooking. All right, and that is just about done. tiny bit more yogurt in there. So super, super soft, creamy, luscious scrambled eggs. You could pour this on top of toast if you want. What I've got is I've got a piece of Japanese shokupan, cream, heavy cream bread actually. And I'll show you what I'll do with that. All I've done is toasted it and buttered it. So you want your eggs to be almost like sauce, like pourable. Here we go. Put those in this container here. Garnish with a bit more chives. Those are gonna go to the compost. Add a little freshly cracked black pepper. I'm gonna take this bread. We're gonna cut out some soldiers. All right. So you see how kind of super, actually let me get my little monitor here, make sure that you can see. Yeah, so super kind of custardy smooth. And let's dip into there. Ooh, yeah. Mmm. That is kind of absurdly good. Oh, Shabu, you want a little bite? Here, you got some toast and egg. Sit. Good girl. Hamon, you want some? Come here. All right, I'll come to you. There you go. No Shabu. That's Hamon's. All right. See you guys later.